Hey YouTube, Awesome Writer here with another Morphin Masters theory video for Power Rangers. When will this guy stop talking about Morphin Masters? When I run out of ideas, because this is honestly a really cool concept with a lot of stuff, cool stuff to talk about. But this video was sort of inspired by some comments in the previous videos I did where I talked about a theory of what powers could have been coming from the Morphin Masters or inspired by them or helped by them. And a lot of people would mention characters we've met like Zordon or Ninjor or Phantom Ranger and ask, are they Morphin Masters? So I wanted to address that in this video and talk about some of those ideas. But before we get started, I just wanted to remind you guys to like this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications for more videos like this and more Power Rangers reviews, and even more than that, just more. So I want to start off by saying this, is that I don't think right now, and I could be proven wrong by anything that happens in the TV show or the comic, that any of the characters we've met in regards to mentors are Morphin Masters right now, at least in the form we see them. I think the Morphin Masters have to look like the Morphin Masters we see. It's sort of explained in the comic that they were like people that studied the grid, so unless it gets rewritten in the show, they're not like gods, like they weren't like born of the grid as gods, they sort of became these godlike beings from studying it. It's possible you could attain it somehow, we don't know how, and it's possible some of these characters I'm about to mention could become them in the future, but I'm just thinking like when we met Ninjor, I don't think he was a Morphin Master at the time, but I'll get into that, but that's what I want to say right now. I think they have to look like this, and I'm unclear as to whether or not they could become this, because there is also a scene in the comic when Zordon is asking for the Morphin Masters' help. He's asking for an audience, and he's talking to the emissaries, and they first of all say the Morphin Masters don't like interfere directly, which is kind of funny now that we've seen that they have made powers which could not be indirectly interfering, but I think specifically appearing in front of the Dino Fury Rangers was directly interfering. But basically they also say, Zordon, we look forward to you one day joining the grid. And we don't know whether that means could he become a Morphin Master or would he become an emissary. So there's a lot we don't know. I think it could be becoming an emissary, but it's certainly possible. But let's dive into some of the characters we've met, and to start off I'm going to sort of do a blanket mention for any tech-based series like Time Force or Lightspeed Rescue. I mentioned in that previous video that I don't think the Morphin Masters necessarily had direct involvement. I think they could have helped hook them up, but I don't need them to be involved in everything. So I don't think like Miss Fairweather is a Morphin Master. I don't think any of the tech ones have any characters at this moment that are necessarily secretly a Morphin Master. And again, I don't want them to be involved in every season. Like I think Dr. K found the grid on her own. I don't think she needed any Morphin Master interference. But maybe SPD wasn't knowing them, but maybe they studied them to gain access to them. So I don't think that they had their hands in every season. Maybe they observed everyone, but I just wanted to say that I don't think any of the tech-based seasons have a character that's a Morphin Master. Again, another example, I don't think Andrew Hartford will become a Morphin Master later. I'm going to sort of more look at the ones that are more lore-based. So Zordon. I think we pretty much know Zordon's not a Morphin Master. I mean, who knows? Like I said, when they mentioned him joining the grid, I don't know whether they're referring to him becoming an emissary or a Morphin Master. So maybe after he sacrificed himself, he could become one. I think if they steer the mythology right, that's a possibility. But as of right now, I don't think he was a Morphin Master. He's just obviously someone that knows of them and works with them in multiple different universes. And then you have Ninjor, which I think is the same case. I think it's very possible he studied under them, or maybe even was created by them. And like maybe the Morphin Masters have different types of servants or followers, and Ninjor is one of those types that they created, and then he created the powers. Or he was like sort of trained, he was molded by them, and that's why he made the Morphin coins, the power coins. So again, I don't think he's a Morphin Master yet, but I think he's a character that could be very much tied to them. I think Dimitri is sort of on that same wavelength. I don't think that she's a Morphin Master, but because she's sort of tied into all that mythology, I think she could become one. Characters like Princess Shayla, I want to say also, even though she's not like a tech-based one, I don't think she's anything deeply connected to the Morphin Masters. I think if anything, they could have contacted her if they were intervening, but I don't think she's someone that would become a Morphin Master later. Same thing for characters like Sensei from Ninja Storm. But you do have interesting situations like Tommy, where I had a theory that maybe they were sort of helping him and steering him towards the Ranger world by guiding the Dino Gems towards him and giving him the Master Morpher potentially, or setting that up somehow. So it's certainly possible that he would be involved with the Morphin Masters that we don't know about, sort of like Zordon, and he's being groomed to have a bigger role, or maybe like Zordon one day become an emissary or a Morphin Master. We don't know. I think that of the sort of more human-based, non-magical mentors like Zordon or Princess Shayla, or something like that. I think he has the best chance of becoming more involved in that world in the future, but we'll have to see. I wanted to bring up Mystic Force because I don't remember who said it, so I'm sorry, but somebody made a really interesting comment about Mystic Force in my last video about how they didn't think the Morphin Masters were involved, but it was actually the Mystic Mother, aka Rita, that granted the Mystic Force access to the Morphing Grid. And that's now my personal headcanon. I like that better. Again, I don't want the Morphin Masters involved in anything, so I don't think she's going to become a Morphin Master or anything, but I do think that's, unless it's ever said in a different way in the comics or the show, I'm going to say for now that's what happened, that Rita gained them access to the Morphing Grid, and I like that idea. Again, I think Dr. K found it on her own. I don't think RJ's friend of a friend, maybe, who knows, maybe he was somehow tied to the Morphin Masters, but I don't think he was a Morphin Master or anything like that. I think Gosei is an interesting option. I think, again, you run into a similar situation with Zordon, where I think he's probably involved with the Morphin Masters. He could go into the grid, like they mentioned, to become whatever he becomes. I think what hangs it up is that they specifically mentioned that Zordon was his mentor, which means that it would be weird if he was a Morphin Master and Zordon wasn't, unless Zordon becomes a Morphin Master and emissary afterwards, and then he mentors Gosei later. That could be really cool. There's two options I like for Gosei. One, what I just said, and that Zordon joined the grid after he sacrificed himself and became something, and he recruited Gosei after that for the Ranger Key's purpose. Or, if you were to somehow scoot around the Gosei was his student thing, it would be kind of cool if Gosei just was a Morphin Master that was just using that tiki head to speak through the Rangers, or speak to the Rangers. I think that would be kind of cool. Again, you'd have to kind of do some retconning and stuff, but I wouldn't be mad at that, just in terms of ideas off the top of my head. Then you have Dino Charge, I almost said Fury there for a second, where you just have stuff like Keeper, who is not a Morphin Master because, unless they change it and he could become one. Anybody, I think, depending on what they do with the mythology, could become one. I guess that's a lot of the point of this video, but this is sort of more to address where they all are in the mythology based on what we know. But I think Keeper is interesting to talk about because he was obviously the keeper of the Energems. So I don't know whether he's involved with the Morphin Masters at all, in terms of maybe they recruited him to watch over the artifacts they made, or he just took it upon himself to. But I don't think he's secretly a Morphin Master or an aspiring one or anything, but I think the role of Keeper could have something to do with them, which could be kind of cool. Again, Morphin Masters I feel is a slippery slope right now because I'm really interested in it, obviously, because I keep talking about it, and I think it adds a lot to the lore and could potentially add a lot in the future, but I also don't need to see them be involved in every season and explain everything, but I think it certainly brings up the opportunity to expand the mythology, and I think Keepers could be the one way that they do that. A couple other characters worth mentioning are Phantom Ranger and Sentinel Knight. Now, Phantom Ranger is specifically a ranger, so we don't know, and again, we don't know how the Morphin Masters come about. Lots of people theorize that he could be involved with them somehow. I will say, because he's a part of that Zordon era bubble, if they ever decide to do anything with him, that it's very possible that he would be involved in that. I don't think he is a Morphin Master, but again, we don't know how they work. We know that they said they don't get directly involved from the comics, so I don't know, that could change because the show obviously had them getting directly more involved, but it's certainly possible. You know, I wouldn't, you know, toss away the theory that maybe they would take the form of a ranger to help out or something, or maybe the Phantom Ranger was a ranger that becomes a Morphin Master or something, but I think he's certainly a character to watch out for in terms of ones that can be connected. Sentinel Knight, I'll say, is interesting just because he was involved with like the Once a Ranger stuff with Thrax, and he did restore the veteran Ranger's powers, but again, the point of this video, I'm going to repeat myself, is I don't think anybody we've met is already a Morphin Master, but I think he's a character that, if the mythology is right, has the potential to become one or is involved with them in some way. But what do you guys think? Was there any characters that I left out that you think could be tied to the Morphin Masters or could become one or already is one? And who do you think of the characters I listed, rather, could be a Morphin Master or maybe a potential Morphin Master or emissary in the future? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.